You're listening to the Neighborhood Bulldog, where the porch light's always on and the maroon runs deep. I'm your host, Scott Nabors, and I'm inviting you into my neighborhood where Mississippi State sports live and breathe. While this is a podcast for all things Mississippi State sports, right now we are just 2 days away from my favorite time of year, the start of Bulldog baseball. We've got a roster, we've got a schedule, we've got a rotation, and a few other surprises coming your way tonight. So grab a seat, grab a drink, and welcome to the neighborhood. So, jumping into this might be the most anticipated baseball season, certainly in recent memory, um, but absolutely one of the most anticipated that I can remember in my lifetime. You remember I wasn't here for the 80s, but I know 85 with Will Clark, Palmero, all of that was certainly an amazing time to be a Bulldog fan. You had 2013 or 2012, we won the SEC tournament on the back of Chris Stratton, Adam Frazier, Hunter Renfro. And then in 2013, we broke through in the College World Series and made the finals versus UCLA. We lost, but at that point, it was kind of like, hey, we can do this thing. It was really the first team sport that made a national championship. The next closest to that would have been the basketball team in the 96 Final Four. But it was something about just playing in the national championship that said, hey, this is possible. We can do it at Mississippi State. And then that was 2013. And, we followed that up with two appearances in the national championship game with women's basketball, you know? So great time to be a Bulldog fan. We finally broke through in baseball in 2021 with our first national championship. And at that point, I think just about everybody, self included, had to be feeling like, okay, the monkey's off our back. This is our main sport that we win in. We get to Omaha. We finally broke through and won it. We're fixing to light this thing up and really take it to the next level and become that dynasty that I think we all thought we could be when it comes to Bulldog baseball. That just did not happen. The wheels completely fell off under Chris Lemonis after winning a championship. um, Going back to back is hard, but again, you didn't even come close. You didn't even make it to Omaha. You followed it up with two losing seasons and then a third where your coach was fired and you barely squeaked into a regional on the back of a pitching coach that was able to step in as the interim coach with Justin Parker and keep the team together and had some amazing leadership on the team that was able to pull that off. And then on the flight home from the regional, the team finds out we have a new hire in Virginia baseball coach Brian O'Connor. One of the best hires, if not the best, that Mississippi State's ever made in any sport. Um, Comes from Virginia with a 917 and a 388 record as head coach in 22 seasons. That's good for a 702 winning percentage. That is absolutely ridiculous to do that at a place like Virginia, where Brian O'Connor got the head coaching job in 2004 at just 32 years old. Prior to Brian O'Connor getting the Virginia head coaching job, Virginia had made three regional appearances in school history. And in Brian O'Connor's tenure there, in 22 years, he made the postseason in 18 of the 22 years. That is an insane stat at a place that had no idea what success felt like in baseball. He literally created the entire program. Um, Over the course of those 22 years, like I said, 18 postseasons. So that's 18 regionals, nine super regionals, seven College World Series appearances, had one finish as the runner up, and one national championship. Just absolutely absurd stats from our new head coach, Brian O'Connor. And, the assumption is you do that at a place like Virginia that historically has nothing in that sport. What can you do at a place like Mississippi State where you have everything? You have top talent coming to play. You have an alumni base and a fan base that is second to absolutely nobody. There's no better stadium, no better fan base in baseball across college than Mississippi State. Um, you have all the facilities you need. I mean, it recruits itself. Brian O'Connor, you did it at Virginia. Now you don't have to worry about funding the program, having equipment, being able to afford to travel to games. All that's already taken care of for you. So now we just need you to coach baseball. What can he do when he is focused purely on coaching the sport? That's going to be the question as we enter the Brian O'Connor era at Mississippi State. And I was a college coach. I've been around a lot of college coaches. I can tell you Brian O'Connor is insanely intense. He is an extremely nice guy, but when it comes to on the field, man, he is laser focused on winning baseball games. It does not matter if it's a midweek game versus Jackson State or the weekend versus LSU, Arkansas, whoever. He wants to win. There is no, well, I'm going to try this lineup out to see how it works. If it's not working, you're going to see adjustments to come back and win the game. That's just how he is. And I appreciate him doing that. And I am very excited that he's the head coach of my Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, getting into the players, what Brian O'Connor essentially did was when he got the job, he met with the top players that had a chance to return to Mississippi State. I believe he said he spent about an hour or two with every single one of them as he was living out of a suite at the baseball field. Well, that gets you Noah Sullivan coming back. That gets Ace Reese coming back, who could have easily gone pro, but he decided to return and play for Brian O'Connor. A lot of other depth on the roster at different positions. So we had a lot of top returners come back to Mississippi State. On top of that, Brian O'Connor brought some of his best players from Virginia with him and then very precisely targeted the transfer portal. So essentially, he merged three teams together, and we're going to see what happens. But what that created was one of the deepest rosters that you will find in college baseball ever. Um, right now, going into the season, remember State came off two losing seasons. Um, barely got into the regionals last year after Lamonis got fired. And going into this season with newcomers on the roster, a new head coach, a new coaching staff entirely except for the pitching coach, Justin Parker. And you've got Baseball America ranking us third, D1 Baseball ranking us fourth, USA Today and National College Baseball Writers Association both have a sixth. To be top six in a preseason poll after the last few seasons we've had with an entirely new staff and half of a new roster is quite impressive. And I can tell you that is the Brian O'Connor effect. Um, over a 700 winning percentage. To me, this is as close to a Nick Saban like hire in baseball as you could get. I mean, that this is those rankings are purely Brian O'Connor. Now, it doesn't help when you have Ace Reese and Noah Sullivan on the team. So there are numerous accolades, preseason watch list awards up and down the entire roster for Mississippi State. We're going to jump through those right now. So you've got Baseball America preseason All American first team watch list, Ace Reese. Player of the Year watch list, Ace Reese. Freshman of the Year watch list, Jack Bauer. Left handed freshman pitcher from Illinois who throws 103 miles an hour. Throwing 100 is great. You don't see it very often. You see it more now than you used to, but you rarely see it in left handers. And when you see it in left handers, you rarely see those left handers make it to a college campus without signing a several $1 million pro contract. And somehow that's what happened in Jack Bauer's case. Thankfully, he is on this roster, and I cannot wait to see what he does. So he is freshman of the year watch list. Preseason All SEC. You've got Ace Reese and Noah Sullivan, both looking at first team preseason All SEC. The National College Baseball Writers Association, preseason All Americans. Ace Reese, second team. Noah Sullivan, first team at DH, which I think He'll DH and play first base. And then you've got Aiden Till, transfer, looking at fourth team on that. Um, on the D1 baseball player rankings at their positions, we have 12 that are in the top 100 and 9 that are in the top 50. You also got Ben Davis and Maddox Miller on the watch list for stopper of the year. So those are two very strong pieces that are going to be coming out of our bullpen. And I cannot wait to see them play. But the big one to me is the Golden Spikes Award watch list. Ace Reese, Golden Spikes watch list player of the year. Notably, Mississippi State has only had one player in the entire storied history of Mississippi State baseball to ever win the Golden Spikes Award. And that was in 1985. Mr. Will Clark, who batted over 400, brought home the Golden Spikes Award. It would be pretty cool at the start of the Brian O'Connor era if Ace Reese could bring that trophy home as well. So I can't wait to see that. Like I said, very deep roster, a lot of newcomers, but not new to baseball. A lot of newcomers to the maroon and white, but you're going to see a lot of players from Virginia that we've played against, that we've heard of, that were great players last year in college baseball. So again, I cannot wait to see these guys in action. I'm very, very excited for this roster and to get it in action. You look up and down at every position, you legitimately have a great player, not a good player, a great player that is above average, certainly more than serviceable. And Mississippi State is essentially three deep at every single position on the field. If you are Brian O'Connor, that is a good problem to have when you're having to scratch your head at what lineup to put together. But honestly, he could put any lineup together, and I feel very confident in its ability to win and win big ball games. I think we will see a lot of differentiation and variety over these first few weekends of the season, before we see it kind of settle into a set lineup in SEC play. You may even have a set lineup for Friday, Saturday SEC play and maybe get some folks some rest, and then they come in fresh on Sunday. As deep as this roster is, Mississippi State's Sunday lineup has a chance to continuously be refreshed and ready to roll, and one of the best Sunday lineups you're going to find. Um, so, again, very excited to get this season started and go from there. All right, Mississippi State baseball starting on Friday. There is some storms coming through this weekend. Long weekend for Valentine's Day. We got a holiday on Monday. Squall lines coming through. It looks like we may be able to get a doubleheader on Friday, maybe Saturday. That Sunday game is going to be difficult. We'll see what happens with the weather. But either way, Mississippi State plays baseball in 2 days. And I could not be more excited. Who do they start the season with? They are starting the season with the Hofstra Pride baseball team. So, looking into Hofstra, they are coming off of a 500 season in 23, a losing season in 24, and a losing season in 25. Two straight losing seasons. Their best year has been 2022. That was first year for their head coach, a guy by the name of Frank Catalanato. And if that name sounds familiar, he was a 14-year MLB veteran player who I mainly remember watching play for the Texas Rangers. Great player back in the day. His first year in 22, he went 30 and 23 and took Hofstra to their first ever championship in the Colonial Athletic Association Conference. Some turnover, things like that have caused them to kind of fall down a little bit. But even in 24, their record was 24 and 33. They still made the conference playoff. which is, again, for Hofstra is a huge deal. 22 is the best year they've ever had, certainly under their head coach. So that's who we play a 3-game set with this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this week, I think it was Monday, we've already got a pitching rotation. How many days under the previous coaching staff were we sitting here on a Wednesday night like we are right now, and we've got Mr. To Be Announced as part of the lineup on the pitching rotation? It's refreshing to have a coach that is so on top of things and so organized, not just at the overall program, but Brian O'Connor's somebody who pays attention to the little things and gets the details right. We've already got a pitching rotation. We've already got everybody's walkout song that came out today, which I'll get into that later. I think they could have been a little better, to be honest with you. Um, but again, very excited. So our pitching rotation this weekend, I think, is one of the best. And I think this is going to be our rotation moving forward. I would be shocked if everyone stays healthy to see this rotation change. It may change the order, but I think everybody in this rotation is going to stay. So we start out on Friday with Ryan McPherson, right-handed pitcher, sophomore. Last year as a freshman, had 20 appearances. He pitched 39 innings with a 4.12 ERA. Not bad for a freshman on the big stage there. Saturday, we are going to go with left-handed pitcher, sophomore Charlie Foster. He came in some last year, um, really did well. I mean, his strikeout to walk ratio is absurd last year for a freshman. He only pitched in 11 and a third innings, but you're looking at a 1.59 ERA, and opponents only hit 81 against him. So, very excited to see the jump that he has made from his freshman to his sophomore year this year. And then the big one, the Valinkas brothers. One of them, Tomas Valinkas, left-handed pitcher from Virginia, one of the Virginia transfers. As a freshman last year, in 12 starts at Virginia, he went 6-1 with a 4.5 ERA. So those are your three guys toeing the rubber this weekend. I expect great things from them. Of the three, of course, I'm very excited to see Valinkas in the maroon and white because he was very promising for Virginia last year as a freshman. But Charlie Foster is who I'm focused on. Ryan McPherson really showed what he could do last year. If he makes the average jump from freshman to sophomore year, he's going to be just like every other guy you've had on Friday, very serviceable, lighten it up. But Charlie Foster has a chance to be the guy. That I'm talking pitcher of the year in the SEC. I'm talking a strikeout to walk ratio you haven't seen in years. Um, and if his opponent batting average stays low like that, you're going to win a lot of series on those Saturday games. Um, just think if you're an opponent, man. If you're an opponent, you've got Ryan McPherson on Friday nights. I remember when Christian McLeod used to be on Friday nights. I remember when Connor Pilkington would pitch. You just go into these games knowing that it's going to take the other team's best to have a chance to beat them. Well, not only do you have that on Friday night, you're going to have that on Saturday with Charlie Foster, and then again on Sunday with Tomas Valinkas. So, no, I mean, there's very few weak spots in the bullpen and at every position on the roster. I mean, that's what leads to all the hype and expectations this season. Mentioned before, I coached college. One of the coaches I coached with was Lane Burroughs at Louisiana Tech. Lane Burroughs used to say all the time, championships are won on Sundays because uh you're either trying to split a series, you're trying to win a series or sweep a series. So he was convinced Sundays is what happens. That's where the magic happens. And you got a guy by Thomas Valinkas on the mound, you're going to win a lot of those Sunday games and a lot of those series. So I cannot wait to see that. All right. we're going to move into the schedule now. We're going to jump a little bit ahead and we're going to look at the schedule that Mississippi State has coming up because we want to see what kind of year is possible for Mississippi State, right? And there are some absolutely massive opportunities up and down this schedule. So we already mentioned this coming up weekend. You start with a 3-game series against Hofstra. Well, then on Tuesday, you're already playing one of the best midweek games in college baseball versus Troy. Troy, who has consistently been on the edge of the top 25 under head coach Skylar Meade. I mean, they've always been scrappy, always been tough. That is a huge, huge Tuesday matchup there for Mississippi State. You've got Alcorn State on Wednesday. Should be a tune-up game, to be honest with you. You got Delaware next weekend. Again, I will be curious to see if we use the same lineups between this weekend and next weekend. We follow that up with a midweek game versus Austin Peay, who, again, they're on the edge of the top 25. Aaron Fitt for D1 Baseball mentioned them in one of his fall previews as a team to watch. Again, scrappy, young, low-level team that you cannot overlook. You cannot take them lightly. And then short of an SEC series, probably the best weekend of the entire season, February 27th through March the 1st, you've got the Emoji Bank College Series Classic in Arlington, Texas, where Mississippi State is going to play Arizona State on Friday, Virginia Tech on Saturday, and number one in the country, UCLA, on Sunday. That's why I think having Tomas Valinkas pitching on Sunday this weekend, you would assume Sunday next weekend, he gets that Sunday game against UCLA in that college classic. That is a huge, huge early season opportunity there to take down preseason number one UCLA and get a little payback for them beating us in the championship in 2013. Um, you follow that up though. I mean, just an insanely tough weekend. And you follow that up with a trip midweek to Southern Miss, who's ranked 20th in the country. That's a midweek road game to a hostile environment. They are going to pack out the Pete in Hattiesburg, and that place is going to be nuts. That is a huge midweek game. If you're able to take a midweek win against Troy, Austin Peay, and Southern Miss on the road, you are really setting yourself up for a lot of success. You follow that up on the weekend with Lipscomb coming to town. Our new soccer coach from Lipscomb. That's the only thing I know about him. So we'll see how that goes. Midweek, that following week, you've got Tulane, who you play in Biloxi. And typically that game is usually sold out. I have no reason to think it won't be sold out again this year. Playing at the nice park down there by the Beau Rivage. Tulane's a tough team. They always have been, always scraping into the regionals, and a lot of people don't want to see those Green Wave players in the regional. You follow that midweek up with first SEC series, a trip to Fayetteville, Arkansas. What a first conference series for Brian O'Connor in the SEC. Welcome to the SEC, Mr. O'Connor. Tough, 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 tough place to play. Arkansas top 10 preseason. Um, Very excited for that. Jackson State midweek, hopefully tune up there. Then you got Vandy coming to Starkville. Then you have Southern Miss coming to Starkville. Then you go to Ole Miss. Again, that place is going to be packed out. Grambling in the midweek. And then we have the Georgia Bulldogs and my friend, hitting coach Nick Amorati, who I coached with, former Bulldog player, coming to town. I'm going to have to stop in and see him before that game. Another huge weekend. Wes Johnson has the Georgia Bulldogs rolling the last few seasons, and no reason to think they won't be rolling this year. Then you got UAB. Tennessee comes to Starkville. What is Tennessee going to look like without Tony Vitello? Tony Vitello leaves Tennessee to go to the San Francisco Giants. A very intriguing move. I cannot wait to see what happens there. Um, Typically, your MLB managers are more mild mannered, unless your name is Bobby Cox. But Tony Vitello, to me, just always had the attitude for college baseball. It's going to be different seeing him go 162 games leading the San Francisco Giants. But Tennessee's coming to start, but we don't know what they're going to look like. I doubt they're going to fall off very much, if at all. I think they will still play with a swag that they had under Vitello, so that's going to be a huge series. You follow that up with a Samford midweek, and then you go to Columbia, South Carolina. Then Memphis comes to town, another tough, scrappy team, low level. And then the big one, Super Bulldog weekend, spring game. You got the LSU Tigers, defending national champs, coming to Starkville. Now, let me say this about the LSU Tigers. Yes, they are good. They will be in contention for the national championship to repeat. Repeating is extremely, extremely hard. That's why nobody hardly does it. That said, if you are a fan of X, or as I still call it, Twitter, you have seen over the last 10 days, for whatever reason, LSU fans losing their minds over Mississippi State baseball. You cannot find an LSU fan in the last 10 days that has not tweeted or X'd about Mississippi State baseball. To me, there's only one reason to be so concerned with having Mississippi State baseball in your mouth constantly, and that's because you're afraid of what Brian O'Connor's fixing to do to you. And this weekend right here, Mississippi State might get swept. It could happen. I don't think it will, but this weekend right here with LSU coming to town, that's going to tell the tale of how far the Bulldogs can go this season. I am really looking forward to the Saturday game there. That's going to be a Saturday night, prime time, ESPN, nationally televised college baseball game. The crowd is going to be insane. I expect it to break another attendance record, which LSU loves to talk about Mississippi State, but they also never want to mention two things. Mississippi State holds the all-time series record against LSU baseball, and Mississippi State holds, I believe it's like 28 or 29 of the top 30 college baseball attendance records. So look for Mississippi State to add to that record, both of those records, that weekend, Super Bulldog weekend right there. You follow up that tough weekend again with another tough midweek game, the Governor's Cup versus Ole Miss, played at Trustmark Park in Pearl. You follow that up that weekend with going to Texas. I'm very excited to see that. Texas came and played Mississippi State last year. I think it was the first SEC series of the season, and they beat us. And boy, they lived it up. They celebrated on our field, and it was embarrassing. So I'll be hoping to get some payback on that trip. You got Nicholls State the midweek after that, and then you got Auburn coming to town. Butch Thompson. Auburn's been mentioned a lot in some people's Omaha 8 predictions. Butch Thompson, very stable program, very good coach. He was at Mississippi State when I read Trackman Radar. Wonderful guy. Love him to death, but I hope he's having a bad weekend that weekend. You follow that up with going to Texas A&M, and then starting May 19th, the SEC tournament. So that is a very, very solid schedule. That is a very tough SEC slate. On top of that, the thing that stood out to me when going through the schedule, on top of who you drew in the SEC, was look at these midweek games following these tough series and going into another tough series. These midweek games are not Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Prairie View. I mean, these are tough, tough freaking games. So I don't know if O'Connor had something to do with that or what, but I mean, that's going to be interesting to see. And if we can get through the year with very few stumbles in the midweek, that would be great. You also set yourself up to, if you do have a few stumbles, the strength of record and strength of schedule for those midweek games is not going to hurt you too terribly. I mean, of course, if you drop one to Jackson State, that's going to be a problem. Alcorn State, that's a problem. But I mean, if you ended up dropping one to Memphis, you end up dropping one to Samford, who's always a solid postseason team, it's not going to hurt you that bad. I don't expect us to, but there's room to grow there if it were to happen. The other thing that stood out to me is if you look at the D1 baseball preseason rankings, which on this show we will follow D1 baseball. The guys, Kendall Rogers, Aaron Fitt, they live and breathe baseball. That's who I follow. So we're going to use their rankings. And if you look at Mississippi State's schedule, okay, Mississippi State plays number one UCLA, number two LSU, number three Texas, number seven Arkansas, number nine Auburn, number 14 Tennessee, number 15 Georgia, number 20 Southern Miss, number 23 Vanderbilt, and number 25 Texas A&M. That is one, two, three, four, five of the top 10, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 out of the top 25 ranking. That is a hell of a schedule to be going off of, especially if you're Brian O'Connor in your first year at Mississippi State and your first year in the SEC. That is one hell of a slate to be up against. So I'm very excited to see what the Bulldogs can do this season throughout the schedule, starting this weekend versus Frank Catalanato and the Hofstra Pride. Okay, we told you that we had a few surprises for you coming your way. We're going to finish out the show with three surprises here. One of the big surprises we got, and Mississippi State loves dropping kind of vague hints. Um, they posted a video the other day with a black batting helmet with the maroon M over S on it. And that thing was sweet. So I don't know if there's more uniform stories going to come out, some new combinations coming possibly. But if they look anything like that batting helmet, that is going to be sweet. I cannot wait to see what happens there. The other thing I want to talk about, the video game MLB The Show just came out with MLB 26, or they're coming out with it. In MLB The Show, which I play the vast majority of the time because I'm a baseball fan and a baseball guy, you have the program called Road to the Show. And in the Road to the Show, just like college football, you are a recruit and you are playing for a college and you're trying to go pro. You're trying to get drafted high as you can. You're trying to go make the big leagues and then have a career. And that's the whole point of playing Road to the Show is you're playing from one player's perspective. And you build your career, try to make the Hall of Fame and all that. It's really fun to do. A lot of your streamers do it. A lot of people play it just for fun. I play it a lot of the times. A few years ago, MLB The Show started putting college teams in the game, which was huge because we have not had a college baseball video game since 2005 NCAA MVP baseball on the original Xbox. And man, I put some hours on that. Um, Now they have upped the number of college teams. I believe it started with one or two, then it went to three or four. They are now at 19 total teams in college baseball that you can play on as a potential draft prospect. Okay. They put out that list of 19 teams earlier this week. I don't know what's going on with the administration at Mississippi State. I don't know if MLB The Show chose the schools they wanted. I don't know if Mississippi State was even offered. But if you are a baseball fan and you play MLB The Show and you have all these college teams in the game, you would have to expect Mississippi State to be one of them, and they're not for some ridiculous reason that I would love to know why. You got 19 schools on there: Clemson, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, Fresno State. I mean, what are we doing? Of the 19 schools, there are 7 SEC schools on the game. So if I want to play college baseball, which I can tell you a ton of people that play MLB The Show are going to play Road to the Show specifically to be able to play for the different colleges and have that experience. They will get to choose between Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas, Vanderbilt, LSU, Florida, and Arkansas. 7 SEC schools. And Mississippi State, with the number one stadium in college baseball, 28 or 29 of the top 30 attendance records in college baseball, one of the biggest pro alumni databases in the country, some of the best players to ever play the game coming from Mississippi State. And you're not one of the schools that people can play for. That is absurd. That is absolutely ridiculous. And if you don't play the game, you don't care. I get it. But I'm still a relatively young guy who plays video games. And I can tell you the millions upon millions of views that these streamers get, they're going to get to see them playing with LSU and Clemson and Arkansas and Florida and Tennessee. What if you're a baseball recruit and you're seeing all this? I mean, would it sway your decision? A little bit. It's not so much that Mississippi State is missing a huge opportunity. I mean, Mississippi State is Mississippi State baseball. It's going to recruit itself to a degree. It's going to get top talent. It's going to retain fans. It's going to build its alumni base even more. You're going to continue to have people make the pros, and not only make the pros, excel in the pros. Mississippi State has a ton of players who are starting for pro baseball teams right now across the league and excelling in those positions. It's simply the fact that when you mention college baseball, Mississippi State is in every single conversation. Why are they not in this one? You may not gain a ton from it, but your licensing, your marketing, just getting your name out there, getting on something as cool as MLB The Show. I mean, imagine you're a teenager and you come home from baseball practice and you hop on MLB The Show and all you want to do is play for your Mississippi State Bulldogs. You're going to create yourself playing for your Mississippi State Bulldogs, getting drafted number 1 overall, going on to have an amazing pro career and in the Hall of Fame. I get it. Like I said, if you don't play the game, you don't understand, but it is really cool to do that. And you have one of the largest fan bases out there that's not going to get that chance. To me, that's just ridiculous. And I hope that changes. I hope we're added to the game very soon, but we will see. I know I will not be playing with any of the SEC schools because the only school I would want to play with is Mississippi State, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm probably not even going to get the game. If Mississippi State was in the game, it would be the sole reason that I would purchase the game. That's what you're missing if you're Mississippi State administration. Figure it out and make it happen. All right, last thing I want to talk about here real quick tonight is Mississippi State announced, I believe it was either late yesterday or early today, our season additions to the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. We have Alex Grammas, who great career back in the day, was not around. I was not around for his career. So I don't know as much about him, but You've also finally got Buck Showalter in the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. Long time MLB veteran player, long time MLB veteran manager, who most people remember as probably the Baltimore Orioles manager for a very long time. And then one that I just laugh to myself and say, man, I must be getting old. Chris Stratton, 2012 SEC tournament winning pitcher. Chris Stratton joining the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. Kind of one of those things where I'm sitting here at fixing to be 33 years old and I see the Hall of Fame announced for the NFL, the Hall of Fame class. And most of the players are people that I grew up watching play. And now with the Ron Polk Ring of Honor, we're up to Chris Stratton. So I'm going, man, it's just a weird feeling to see. But congrats to those. I'm always curious to see who we add each year. Um, all very, very deserving of the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. They upheld Mississippi State baseball while they were here, and they went even further and did it in the pros. Buck Showalter with a long career in the pros. Chris Stratton, decently long career, pitched for the A's and I believe the Royals. Um, but great careers there, great Bulldogs. I'll be excited to see those inducted and get their names on the plaques as you enter the best stadium in college baseball, Duty Noble Field. I hope you guys will be there this weekend. But if you're not, you can rejoin the neighborhood for a recap of the weekend next week and a preview of our Troy game, the Alcorn State game, and the Delaware series next weekend. Hopefully, we are 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 going into next weekend. And we are sitting here very happy as we face Delaware and then Austin P before the biggest tournament and the biggest weekend of the season, the M&T Bank College Classic. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. As I said, I am Scott Nabors. I am your neighborhood Bulldog. I hope you all will continue to join me and join the neighborhood as we grow this. I am Mississippi State Sports. I live and breathe it every single day. My sole purpose is waking up and finding out what's happening with Mississippi State today. Thank you for joining us. I will be with you next week. Have a great weekend and go Bulldogs.